Hey peoples, this is another movie review of The Irishman. As always, I want to say thank you for listening, that really means a lot to me. And on to the review. So The Irishman is about a truck driver named Frank Sheeran. Frank gets involved with the Buffalino crime family and eventually becomes a hitman and starts working for Jimmy Hoffa. And that's the movie. So before we get into the amazing acting and the engaging storytelling and the creative directing, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the giant King Kong sized elephant in the room, and that's this runtime. This movie is 3 hours and 30 minutes long. Oh my goodness. On one side, I applaud them for doing this. This probably could have only been on Netflix because there's probably no way there would be a 3 hour and 30 minute drama in a movie theater because people don't know how to sit still that long in public. And also movie theaters probably wouldn't like it because they couldn't play a bunch of screenings because it would take up too much time. So I understand why Netflix is a great place for this film. Also, we are dealing with a section of someone's life, and it's refreshing to see a film where we actually get to see that person's life over that span of time versus a shorter film where it feels like they have to cut and jump to sections of that person's life and you feel like you miss out on some things. And when you have time to watch a period in someone's life and get attached to that character, the emotional scenes mean more to you. So when our main character has to make a hard decision, you feel it more, and I love that the length helped that part of the film. On the other end, this is a long freaking movie. Like, it's so long. And I think that might go against it in the story aspect because there are so many characters in this movie. And every character isn't necessarily a throwaway character. Their scene might be important because the movie brings it up in the story later on. And the movie realizes that it's long because they have to show that scene again to remind the viewer, this is what we're talking about, this is who we're talking about, and this is the action that took place, and that's why it's important now. So the fact that you have to do that shows that you understand that this is a very, very long movie. But moving on to my favorite part of the movie, the writing. The writing in this movie is so much fun. It's so colorful. Each character has their own style of dialogue. Each conversation has its own weight. Whether it's serious or comedic, it adds to the film and gives you more information on that specific character. There are even misunderstandings within conversations, people repeating themselves to clarify themselves. Stuff like this that we experience every day in normal conversation is placed in this film to make it feel even more real. Also, I really enjoy the lore behind each individual character. I don't know what's entirely true in this story, but they do have fun with characters. For instance, one character will say, oh, I was talking to Whispers, not that Whispers, the other Whispers. Stuff like that. It's small, but it's just fun and it brings more color to the dialogue, and I really enjoyed that in the movie. And the dialogue wouldn't be possible without the amazing acting in this film. Everyone is so good. Oh my goodness, Robert De Niro. If he does not get nominated for something, I don't even care about Oscars. I really don't. I think awards are stupid. But this man should be nominated for something because he was so good in this movie. The way he pulls off our main character, who seems to be quiet at times, but also pulls off that don't mess with me type of attitude. And then we see the struggle between him and his daughters, and the way De Niro displays that sorrow in his face, how he's not connected to his daughters, how he really wants to be. Also, you have to think about this. Robert De Niro's character is a killer. Even though he is a murderer, it's the way they display his heart. And it's so funny because everyone surrounding Frank is also a bad person. They're all not good, but you don't feel that same connection with them. You're just like, oh, that's a horrible human being. But I mean, Frank isn't any better. He's just killing people, but somehow they get you to like him, which is an amazing feat by this movie. One thing I want to point out in the acting was Al Pacino. Al Pacino plays Jimmy Hoffa in this movie, and he does a great job for the most part. But there are a couple of scenes that either technically or directing wise seem weird, and it's because they're cut in the middle of the scene or in the middle of a conversation. For instance, Jimmy Hoffa will be talking and then his next line seems too quick or too fast, like he's talking over himself, like they had to cut it in the movie. Also, there's a scene where Jimmy Hoffa is talking to reporters and someone walks across the screen. And when they do that, it seems like the scene resets itself. Usually when someone walks across the screen, the way they do it, that's called a wipe. So someone would walk across and it would cut to another scene completely. But we were still there, so it seems like they just cut it and then said action and they had to redo what they were doing. I don't know if Al Pacino was struggling with his lines, if he ran on too long, or if they didn't like the cut, but it happens a couple times and that just was obvious to me. Also, around the 2 hour and 30 minute mark, Robert De Niro breaks the fourth wall. But those are just small things out of this 3.5 hour movie that stuck out to me. I don't know why, but maybe because the acting was so great. So those things just poke out as just weird moments within the film. But moving on to the visuals and directing. The shots in the movie are really creative and they tell a story from where the camera is placed. And I'm gonna jump around, but these are small little directing / visual things that were really cool in the movie. They do a really good job of letting moments breathe in the movie. Now when they do this, this sets up a couple of things. Let's take the cars blowing up for an example. A few cars blow up in this movie, but they blow up in different ways. Some of them are instantaneous, some of them have a space after the character mentions it. For example, I'll say something like, let's blow up that car. Then the camera will focus on the car, but there will be a couple of beats before that car actually explodes. And that sets up car explosions later on for when they happen instantaneously, and it startles the audience. And I thought that was just a creative way to keep the viewer on their toes. One moment I really want to talk about is a courtroom scene, or something similar to a courtroom. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I won't tell you anything about the characters. But in this specific scene, we have a bad guy and he's wearing shades, and he's being questioned about certain illegal activities. So they ask him a question and he gives a smart remark, people start laughing, and then photographers in the room start snapping his picture. And when they do that, it lightens up his shades twice and you get to see his eyes for a split second. And the way that scene looks is just incredible, because his eyes have this look of just, I do not care, I'm the biggest person in this room, all of you are nothing to me. It's a small thing, but that's just one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I don't know why, I loved it and I watched it multiple times over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know if my next point would actually go into the directing or the story, but I really like the violence in this movie, specifically because it didn't look stylized. Nothing looked very clean, everything felt rough and gritty and real, and I loved it. In regards to the story, I really liked it overall. It kind of gave me a Goodfellas feel, and that's one of my favorite movies, but I really enjoy movies where we get to take a journey with one character. Now, a disappointing part for me is that it doesn't feel like the whole movie is from this character's perspective, and our main character is the one telling us a story. So when you're showing the scenes where he's not there, I guess we're getting the second-hand story from him, but that was kind of bothersome. Also, this movie takes place in 3 separate time periods. They do eventually join up, but with a movie that's this long, it seemed overly complicated, like you could have taken out one of the storylines and everything still would have worked out fine. But that wasn't really a major gripe that took me out of the film. The story overall is really engaging, and it's mainly due to Robert De Niro. He really makes you care about this character. I really don't understand the ending of the film because our main character, Frank, does something that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why he was involved because it doesn't seem like he wanted to be involved. So that was a little confusing. I can't give much more because it would spoil stuff. But if you've seen the movie or you're going to watch the movie, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. But we'll talk about that in the comments. And the very end of the movie felt kind of abrupt because it kind of cuts to black. I don't know how everyone's gonna take that. I don't know how I took it. I'm starting to think I liked it because of where the character ends up. And the very last thing I have to say is that the de-aging technology sometimes look kind of weird on their faces, but overall I didn't care because I was really enjoying the acting. This movie has some of the best acting I've seen ever. It is super entertaining, it sucks you into the film, and you care about the main character, even though they are a horrible person. And like I said earlier, Robert De Niro should get nominated for something. Actually, a lot of the people in this movie should get nominated for something. Again, I don't care about awards. They seem pointless because people saw your movie. That's winning to me. But sure, if we're gonna talk about awards, these people deserve one. And if that wasn't a clue about my suggestions for this movie, yes, you should obviously watch this. But that's all, peoples. As always, thank you for listening. And thank you for the likes, subscribing, commenting, the thumbs up, the retweets, the follows, all those things. I really appreciate it. Please continue to have a great day. God bless. I'll talk to you later.